state champion, and the first Black swimmer to break both an American and a world record. Wow. Today, she equips individuals and organizations with the mindset, discipline, and resilience to perform with confidence under pressure. She challenges audiences to discover who they are, commit to their plan, and ignite the belief needed to achieve what once felt impossible. She is here today with her family and friends, husband Chad, children Payson and Sanaya, and friend Chandrika. Please help me with a warm round of applause for Maritza McClendon.
Good morning, Bulldog family. How are you guys? Oh, that was lackluster. How are you guys doing this morning? Okay. It's crazy to think I was sitting exactly where you are just a little over 20 years ago. Don't do the math, just go with me. Thinking what many of you are probably thinking right now, we made it. Some of you may be the first in your family to graduate from college. Some of you probably had some moments where you weren't sure you'd make it to this day. And for others, just getting into UGA felt like a crazy idea or a big dream not that long ago. But here you are. And that's the thing about crazy. It doesn't feel crazy until you do it. There was a time in my life when becoming an Olympic swimmer didn't just feel unlikely, it felt impossible. And if I'm being honest, maybe a little crazy. Now, I didn't grow up in a sport where people who look like me were expected to succeed. I didn't see myself represented in the water, and I didn't grow up thinking, one day, I'm gonna bring home an Olympic medal. But here's what I've learned. It's only crazy until you do it. So think about this. There's no one who sees the world the way that you do, and there's no one who can navigate it the way that you can. And that's not something for you to question, but rather what makes you qualified. Qualified to build a life that reflects who you are, qualified to chase something that others might not understand, and qualified to turn what feels uncertain into something undeniable. Which means you don't need permission to build the life you're imagining, you just need a process to step into it. So if I may, I'm going to share with you my secret roadmap to live out success the way only you can. It's simple. Discover, commit, and ignite. Discovery is where it all begins. Now let me be clear, discovery is not this lightning bolt moment where suddenly everything makes sense. Discovery is curiosity. It's about asking the right questions, and it's about trying different things. Discovery sometimes finds you before you find it, and that's exactly what happened to me. Discovery came in a very unconventional way when I was handed a medical diagnosis that quite honestly changed the trajectory of my life. At just 6 years old, my mom and I sat in a doctor's office and I was told I had severe scoliosis and that I needed to have major back surgery. Well, if your mom is anything like mine, she said surgery is not an option for her 6-year-old princess. She asked, "What else, Doc?" And with a slight tilt on his head, he said, "Well, you could try a sport that's light on her joints and helps her work on her flexibility and posture." If you haven't guessed it, that sport was swimming. Her next thought was, well, she loves the water, but she doesn't know how to swim. Now, I didn't learn how to swim in an Olympic-sized pool like what we have here on campus, but simply in our neighbor's backyard pool who wanted his community kids to learn basic water safety skills. By the end of the summer lessons, he introduced us to the sport of swimming by having us do relays. I was so excited. I grabbed my 3 best friends and I said, "Let's win this." It seemed like everyone was down for the cause. The first girl dove in, she touched the wall first. Then I dove in, swam my leg, and also touched the wall first. I turned around expecting the next swimmer to go, and nothing. I looked back at the block and the girl who was supposed to go after me was holding on to the block for dear life and crying. Now they say there's no crying in baseball, and apparently my 6-year-old brain thought there's also no crying in swimming. We still had a chance to win this, but that window of opportunity was quickly closing. So without hesitation, I got out the water and pushed her in. Needless to say, my mom was on a sideline with her face in her palm, shaking her head. Now before y'all start judging me, let me formally apologize to that little girl. My bad. At this point, I had discovered I loved to swim, but more importantly, I was competitive. So my mom did her research, and by the time I was 7, I joined my very first competitive swim team. The next step in the process is to commit. Now here's where things start to look a little crazy, even unrealistic to the people around you. Because discovering something is one thing, committing to it is something entirely different. Commitment is where most people stop, because commitment requires something more from you. It requires discipline, it requires consistency, and it requires showing up even when you don't want to. And let me tell you, there was a lot of mornings I did not want to jump in 78-degree water. Yes, that's cold. If you don't believe me, go jump in the pool at Ramsey Student Center. I guarantee you, you will get goosebumps that will take over your entire body. I'll tell you that moment for me was when I was 12 years old. I went to a championship meet at the pool on the campus of University of Florida. But don't worry, other than making my first junior national qualifying time, that pool meant nothing to me. Go Dogs. And just a year later at 13, I made my first US national cut, which means I was swimming with the best swimmers in the country. For me, committing to swimming meant waking up at 4:30 in the morning, jump into the water at 5 a.m., getting to school at 7:30 with my hair still wet, sitting in class, and at some point someone would say, "What's that smell?" I'd just sit there, act like I didn't know, but it was me, smelling like straight chlorine, like I brought the pool with me. Then after school, I'd head back to the pool for a 1-hour land workout, and then I'd jump back in the pool from 5 to 7. After practice, I'd go home, eat dinner, do my homework, and finally go to sleep around 2:30 or 10:30, only to wake up the very next day to do it for the next 4 days, actually. And then on Saturday, I actually woke up for another 3-hour practice that started at 6 a.m. And I did that week after week, month after month, and year after year. All for a dream that most people thought wasn't mine to have. Was it worth it? Yes. Was it easy? Not at all. Would I change it? Not a chance. Because anything meaningful in your life is going to require something more from you. And the question becomes, are you willing to give it? Now let me pause here for a minute. Sure, I was swimming fast, winning medals, bringing home trophies, but I didn't look like your typical swimmer. Fun fact, I grew 3 inches when I got to college. I went from 5'5" to 5'8", but the average sprint freestyler is actually 6 feet. And on top of that, I was black. Swimming is a predominantly white sport. My reality, which I learned early on, was that I was one of the few black swimmers to step on every pool deck. I had parents of the kids I was beating in the pool tell me to go do another sport. They would say, "Look around, you don't belong on this pool deck." And at some point in your life, you're going to hear a version of that. Someone may discount your ability because of your size, or your boss may be dismissive of your ideas because of your age. In that moment, you'll feel like you're the only one in the room, questioning if you belong. Because when you decide to commit, just know there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, but there's even going to be some plateaus. But when you truly commit, it's choosing to stay when things get hard, it's choosing to believe when doubt gets loud, and it's choosing to keep going even when others tell you you don't belong or you're not deserving. Because when you commit to something big, your world starts to shift. Those early mornings, those all-nighters, the moments when you wanted to quit but didn't, that's the work. And that's the part that no one sees, but that's the part that changes everything. Because when you discover something and you commit to it, you start to ignite something inside of you. And ignite is where belief meets action. It's the moment you stop asking, "Can I do this?" and you start showing the world, "Watch me." Or if you're anything like me and need a little encouragement, sometimes it takes having a mentor, a coach, your mom, or someone who believes in you before you believe in yourself. For me, that was my coach, Peter Banks. He saw something special in little Maritza, and he told me I could be the best swimmer in the world. I remember watching the '96 Olympic Games and watching Amy Van Dyken win 4 Olympic gold medals. A spark ignited, and in that moment, I knew I wanted to become an Olympian. Over the next 4 years, I would go on to win 6 Florida high school state titles, officially commit to becoming a Georgia Swim Dog, win my first NCAA title, and become the first black woman to break a world record in swimming. Now, even after all that, I was like, sure, I'm definitely ready for my Olympic berth. It's time, let's do this. I walked out to my race, nervous as all get out, looking in the stands for my family. I got behind the block, and suddenly I was standing to what felt like 7-foot giant swimmers. Y'all, I had been swimming against these swimmers long before, plenty of times. But they came ready, and clearly I didn't. If you haven't guessed it, I didn't make the team in 2000. I went from 4th to 34th in my best event. I got out the pool with my head down and my tail tucked between my legs, and to add fuel to the fire, my dad told me I was an embarrassment to the family. And he told me he was embarrassed that he had to tell his friends that I didn't make the team. I said, "Well, Dad, I have another race and another chance to make the team." He looked at me, handed me a plane ticket, and said, "The embarrassment stops here." Lots of tears, a lot of doubt, and if I'm being honest, even thoughts of suicide. I almost walked away from the sport that helped me discover my competitive edge, the sport I committed all those hours to, and the very sport that ignited my Olympic dream. I'll be honest, I spiraled, I fell into deep depression, I isolated myself, and I didn't tell a single soul what was said for years. But I also didn't have the luxury of disappearing for long. My second year on the UGA swim team was about to begin, and I needed to show up. My team needed me, and truthfully, I needed them too. I was surrounded by teammates who pushed each other relentlessly in practice, lifted each other up on hard days, and celebrated every breakthrough like it was their own. That environment reignited something in me, and it reminded me of who I was and helped me rediscover my love for the sport. Now I want to take a moment to acknowledge my Georgia swim coaches, Jack Bowerly, Harvey Humphreys, who's here next to my family, Carol Cabatani, and Whitney Height. They didn't wait for me to figure it out. They kept pushing me, even when I didn't have it all together, because unlike my dad, they knew I still had something left. When you find those people who can fill the gap or a void for what's missing, let them pour into you. It may be what you need to help get your cup past halfway so that you can take it from there. Now in 2001, the NCAA championship came down to the final relay. We were either going to win the national championship as a team or we were not. Now y'all know I love relays, except for this time I didn't have to push anyone in, but trust me, I would have if I needed to. The UGA Lady Swim Dogs would go on to win the Division I NCAA championship title by 1.5 points. That moment told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't done. And just like that, there was a spark that I needed. I recommitted to my dream of making an Olympic team, not from a place of fear or approval, but from the belief that I could do this. I chased excellence with intention. I trained with discipline and clarity. I fueled my body with purpose, and I prioritized recovery like it was part of the work. Leading up to 2004 Olympic trials, I brought home 10 NCAA championship titles, 4 international medals as I represented Team USA, and I even broke 2 American records, becoming the fastest woman in the country. So this time, as I walked out on the pool deck to my lane, I knew I was ready. I swam my race, and this time when I touched the wall, I made my dream a reality. I became an Olympian. Never a former Olympian, always an Olympian. I would go on to the games in Athens, Greece, and bring home an Olympic silver medal as the anchor for Team USA, etching my name in the history books as the first woman of color to make the team and win a medal for Team USA in swimming. Something that once felt impossible became real. Something that once felt crazy or even unimaginable became my reality. Today, I swim in a different lane. I'm no longer racing for medals, but I am racing to make sure that every child, especially in underserved communities, has a chance to be water safe. The reality is that in this country, 11 people drown every single day. 64% of Black children don't know how to swim, and nearly 40% of Black adults don't either. Swimming is the only sport that is also a life-saving skill. I want my community to have the opportunity that a backyard pool once gave me, because that little pool changed my life. And I believe access to water doesn't just change lives, it saves them. So as you leave here today, remember this: there's no one who sees the world the way you do, which means no one is qualified to build the life you're meant to live. So when you find yourself standing on the edge of something uncertain, uncomfortable, or even a little crazy, discover it, commit to it, and ignite it. And don't for a moment believe that that's the only version of you. You can discover again, you can recommit again, and you can ignite a completely new dream. Because the life that you're meant to live might look crazy, unimaginable, or even unthinkable to everyone else, until the day you decide to do it. Congratulations, class of 2026.